1956, a small suburban bathroom just before 600 a.m. The house is still quiet, but the morning light is already slipping through the frosted glass window, catching the edge of a cold porcelain sink. A woman stands there turning the heavy metal tap. You can hear the rush of water and smell the faint, powdery scent of roses in the air. Her hands gently unscrew the lid of a heavy glass jar of cold cream. But the strange part is this: nothing on that counter looked expensive. There were no serums, no 12-step routines, no plastic bottles promising miracles. She owned exactly 3 products, and yet her skin looked better than most women chasing a dozen different trends today. These habits vanished not because they failed, but perhaps because they were too simple to sell. These are 25 unspoken beauty rules every 1950s woman knew. Now, before we dive in, tap that subscribe button. You will not want to miss what is coming next. Today, the beauty industry is a multi-billion-dollar machine built on the idea that you always need more. More serums, more steps, more complicated routines. But if we look back at the women of the 1950s, a different picture emerges. The unspoken rules they followed did not vanish because they stopped working. They vanished because the industry realized that simple, cheap, and effective habits do not generate profit. What disappeared was not the result, but the knowledge around it. As we count down these 25 forgotten beauty rituals, the deeper you look, the less old-fashioned these habits seem. And by the time we reach number 1, you will see that this was never just about beauty at all. It was about a quiet discipline passed down from mother to daughter. The countdown starts with a ritual that almost every woman relied on before bed. Let's begin. Number 25, the cold cream ritual. Before foaming cleansers and micellar waters took over bathroom shelves, there was the heavy glass jar of Pond's cold cream. Women did not scrub their faces with harsh, stripping soap. Instead, they massaged this thick, cool cream into their skin, breaking down the day's powder and rouge before wiping it away with a warm, damp cloth. It cost just a few cents, but it left the skin's natural moisture barrier perfectly intact. Today, we buy expensive barrier repair serums to fix the damage caused by our own modern cleansers. For a 1950s woman, that jar was not just skincare, it was the quiet boundary between her public duties and her private rest. Number 24, the 100 brush strokes. Sitting at the vanity, a woman would take a natural boar bristle brush and pull it through her hair 100 times before bed. You could hear the rhythmic, soft sweeping sound in the quiet room. This was not a myth. It was mechanical conditioning. The strokes pulled the natural oils from the scalp down to the dry ends. Today, we wash those natural oils away every single morning, only to spend a fortune on synthetic shine serums to artificially replace them. The old way required patience. The new way requires a credit card. Number 23, exfoliating with a simple washcloth. There were no chemical peels or plastic microbeads in a mid-century medicine cabinet. Instead, women relied on the slightly rough texture of a standard cotton washcloth. Woven tight and wrung out with warm water, it provided gentle, daily physical exfoliation. It was a tool that never ran out, never required a plastic refill, and did exactly what it was meant to do. Number 22, witch hazel as the only toner. If you opened a cabinet in 1954, you would likely smell the sharp, clean, slightly herbal scent of witch hazel. Poured onto a cotton pad, it was used to sweep away any remaining oil and tighten the pores. It was completely natural, bought at the local drugstore for a few dimes. The modern beauty industry has convinced us we need complicated multi-acid toners, but witch hazel did the job without irritation, proving that sometimes the laboratory is no match for the apothecary. Number 21, setting pin curls overnight. The secret to the flawless, bouncy styles of the era was not an expensive electric curling iron. It was damp hair, a handful of cold metal bobby pins, and immense patience. Women rolled their hair section by section, pinning it tight against the scalp before sleeping. It was uncomfortable, yes, but it protected the hair from daily heat damage and held a style for days. It was the quiet work done in the dark to look completely effortless in the light. And once you notice how many of these early tricks relied on patience rather than purchases, a larger truth becomes hard to ignore. These were not just beauty hacks. They were a form of self-reliance, A woman with a jar of cream, a brush, and a handful of pins did not need a multi-billion-dollar industry to tell her she was beautiful. She already knew how to care for herself. But the next group of rules moved away from the evening rituals and into the bedroom, where the standards became even more precise. Number 20. Sleeping on silk or satin. Instead of allowing expensive night creams to rub off on standard cotton pillowcases, women knew that friction was the enemy of both skin and set curls. A silk or satin pillowcase was an investment in preservation. It allowed the skin to glide smoothly and kept those painstakingly rolled pin curls intact until morning. Today, silk pillowcases are marketed as a luxury wellness trend, but back then it was simply household intelligence, a practical way to protect the work you had already done. Number 19. Vaseline for lashes and brows. Before peptide lash serums and overpriced brow gels filled cosmetic aisles, there was a humble yellow tin of petroleum jelly. A tiny dab of Vaseline, applied with a clean brush or a fingertip, was smoothed over eyelashes and eyebrows every single night. It did not promise miracle growth, but it deeply conditioned the hairs, preventing breakage and adding a subtle, healthy gloss. It made the eyes look naturally awake without a single drop of mascara. It was a pennies per use secret sitting quietly in almost every medicine cabinet across the country. Number 18. Pressing, not swiping, powder. When sitting at the vanity mirror, the application of face powder was deliberate. A 1950s woman did not take a massive, fluffy brush and sweep dust randomly over her face. She used a flat velour puff, loaded it with finely milled Coty powder, and firmly pressed and rolled it into the skin. This specific technique locked the foundation in place and blurred imperfections flawlessly. It required technique, not just a product, proving that how you applied something mattered just as much as what you bought. Number 17. Matching lips and nails. In the mid-century, cohesion was the ultimate sign of being put together. If you wore a classic True Red Revlon lipstick, your fingernails were painted in the exact same shade. It was a non-negotiable rule of grooming. This symmetry created an illusion of effortless elegance. You did not need a massive closet full of expensive clothes if your lips, nails, and posture were perfectly aligned. It showed the world that you had taken the time to present a unified, intentional front. Number 16. Perfume on pulse points only. A woman from this era did not walk through a heavy, suffocating cloud of body mist. Perfume was precious, often kept in small glass flacons and gently dabbed, never sprayed aggressively. A single drop on the inside of the wrists, behind the ears, and perhaps at the base of the throat. The scent was meant to be discovered by someone standing close, not announced to the entire room before she even walked in. By this point, the pattern is no longer just about beauty products, it is about standards. These women understood that true elegance was not about being loud, heavily painted, or constantly consuming new items. It was about restraint, stillness, and the quiet dignity of knowing exactly what worked for you. But the next few rules move away from the vanity table and straight into the kitchen, where everyday household ingredients suddenly transformed into the most potent beauty secrets a woman could own. Number 15. DIY lemon juice hair. Rinses. Instead of buying expensive clarifying shampoos, women brought the kitchen into the bathroom. A fresh lemon, cut and squeezed into a pitcher of cold water, was used as a final rinse after washing. You could smell the sharp, clean citrus mixing with the damp air. The natural acidity flattened the hair cuticle, making it gleam under the sun while subtly highlighting lighter strands. It was grocery store chemistry that cost pennies but delivered results the industry later bottled and sold for a premium. Number 14. Storing beauty items in the icebox. Decades before miniature skincare fridges became a modern trend, the family refrigerator doubled as a beauty preservation zone. A glass bottle of witch hazel or a jar of cold cream was often tucked quietly behind the milk bottles. Applied early in the morning, the chilled cream instantly reduced overnight swelling and woke up tired skin. The kitchen and the vanity were not separate worlds. They worked together with brilliant efficiency. Number 13. Shaving with actual bar soap. You would not find a pink aerosol can of shaving cream in a mid-century bathtub. Women simply used the same heavy, dense bar of ivory or palmolive soap they washed with. Worked into a thick, rich lather using a wet washcloth, it provided more than enough slip for a smooth shave with a metal safety razor. The beauty industry eventually convinced us we needed a separate, brightly colored product for every single body part. But a good, honest bar of soap did it all. Number 12. Talcum powder for everything. A metal tin of talcum powder was arguably the hardest working item in a 1950s household. Dusted lightly into leather shoes, it kept them fresh. Patted onto the skin with a large puff after a bath, it prevented chafing in the sticky summer heat. Sprinkled onto bed sheets, it made slipping into bed feel crisp and luxurious. It was the ultimate multi-purpose comfort tool, solving a dozen problems long before specialized body deodorants and dry shampoos existed. Number 11. Washing hair only once a week. Today, the modern routine often demands daily washing, stripping the scalp of its natural protection. But in the 1950s, hair washing day was a distinct event, usually happening just once a week. In between, women relied on the 100 brush strokes to distribute oils, pinning, and perhaps a little powder at the roots. This patience allowed the scalp to balance itself naturally. The hair was thicker, stronger, and fundamentally healthier. Number 10. The nightly hairnet. To protect that weekly wash and painstaking set, a woman rarely went to sleep with her hair loose. She wore a fine, almost invisible hairnet. It was not the most glamorous evening look, but it was incredibly practical. It kept the metal rollers perfectly in place and prevented friction from ruining the style against the pillow. The closer we get to number 1, the less this is about solving physical problems, and the more it is about identity. These were not just habits. They were quiet standards, repeated until they became character. What looks small from the outside often carries the heaviest memory. And as we move into our final countdown, we leave the bathroom and the kitchen behind. The next few rules move into something deeper: how a woman carried herself and the invisible armor she put on before facing the world. Number 9. The half-moon manicure. Back then, nails were not buried under thick layers of acrylic. The ultimate sign of elegance was leaving the natural lunula, the pale half-moon at the base of the nail, completely bare, while painting the rest a deep, glossy red. It required a remarkably steady hand and precise attention to detail. It was subtle, but it proved you had the time and the skill to care for yourself meticulously. Number 8. Castor oil treatments. Instead of buying expensive hair growth gummies, grandmothers relied on a thick, sticky glass bottle of castor oil. Massaged firmly into the scalp and the ends of the hair, it was a heavy, messy process. But it worked. It was a generational home remedy that did not need a sleek marketing campaign, just the quiet endorsement of the women who came before you. Number 7. Baking soda for teeth whitening. Before bleaching strips made teeth painfully sensitive, women simply dipped a damp, stiff-bristled toothbrush into a cardboard box of baking soda. The taste was chalky and salty, but the gentle abrasion polished away coffee and tea stains effortlessly. It was practical, it cost mere pennies, and it kept smiles bright without destroying the enamel. Number 6. Never touching the face. This was an ironclad rule of mid-century discipline. Once a woman applied her morning powder, she kept her hands away from her skin for the rest of the day. It prevented the transfer of oils and bacteria, keeping breakouts at bay and ensuring makeup lasted. It was not about buying a better setting spray, it was simply about physical control. Number 5. Perfect posture as a beauty requirement. A mother would constantly remind her daughter to pull her shoulders back and lift her chin. In the 1950s, posture was considered the absolute foundation of beauty. You could be wearing a homemade cotton dress with no makeup at all, but if you stood straight, you commanded respect. Modern beauty often focuses on contouring the face to create illusions, but the old way focused on carrying the body with pride. Number 4. The evening fresh face. Today, we often look back at the 1950s habit of reapplying powder and lipstick before the husband came home as a sign of outdated submission. But for many women, it was a crucial psychological boundary. It marked the end of scrubbing floors, wrangling children, or washing laundry. Washing her face and putting on fresh lipstick was a transition. It was her way of stepping out of the role of a laborer and returning to her identity as a woman. Number 3. The signature scent. A woman of this era did not have a crowded tray of 20 different body mists. She chose one perfume, perhaps a heavy glass bottle of Shalimar or Coty, and wore it exclusively. It became her invisible signature. It lingered on her wool coats, in her purse, and on her stationery. It was an exercise in loyalty and identity. Number 2. Lipstick as armor. You simply did not leave the house with a bare mouth. Even if a woman was just walking down to the local grocer or picking up the mail, she swiped on a coat of red or coral lipstick. Listen closely because this is important. It was not about vanity. It was about presenting a prepared face to the world. It was a shield against whatever the day might throw at her. And now we reach the one that explains all the others. The final rule was never just about the object. It was about what happened around it. Number 1. Beauty as a quiet discipline. In a bustling, noisy mid-century house, the vanity table was a sanctuary. Picture a mother sitting before a mirror, the soft click of a lipstick tube echoing in the quiet room. In the doorway stands her young daughter watching in silence. The mother does not say a word, but she is teaching a masterclass in self-respect. She is showing her daughter that before you take care of the house, the children, and the world, you carve out 10 minutes to take care of yourself. It was not a product, it was an inheritance. The jars and the powders were just tools. The real secret was the quiet dignity passed from mother to daughter without a single word. And that inheritance is exactly what the modern beauty industry hopes we forget as we head toward the end of our story. Looking back at these 25 forgotten rules, the truth becomes perfectly clear. These habits, these small rituals of the mid-century, did not disappear because they failed. They vanished because they were simply too cheap, too effective, and too independent for a modern beauty industry that needs us to keep buying. But what we truly lost was not the cold cream, the boar bristle brush, or the glass bottle of witch hazel. What disappeared was the patience, the deep, quiet household intelligence, the art of mother-to-daughter teaching. We traded self-reliance for convenience, and in the process, we forgot how to trust our own hands. Yet even now the memory remains. Somewhere a grandmother is still opening a vintage compact. Somewhere a kitchen light is still glowing over a cold porcelain sink. Somewhere a daughter is watching without knowing she is being taught. And without a word, the lesson begins again. What forgotten beauty rule did the women in your family swear by? Share your memories in the comments below. If you found a piece of your own history in this video, please like, subscribe, and join us for the next one. We have so much more of the past to uncover.